Relaxing on a Cloud by Admiral Biscuit. The blonde Pegasus lay prone on the cloud, her hooves dangling off the front. Her wings were sore from a hard day's flying, and she needed a bit of relaxation before she returned home for the night. The sun had just set after she left Clydesdale Weather Factory, and it had been a bit disorientating, since she rarely flew at night anymore. Looking at the panorama around her, she wondered why she had ever stopped. Luna's moon was well above the horizon, slightly obscured by a thin veil of very high clouds, higher than any Pegasus even Rainbow Dash could ever hope to reach or manipulate. A faint rainbow could be seen in that cloud cover, and she struggled to remember what it was called. Was it a moonbow? Or was that too obvious? It had been so many years since she had taken her weather training classes, and she hardly ever worked weather patrol. Whatever it was called, it was beautiful. She was slightly saddened that so few stars were visible. As she craned her neck upwards, she could see some of the brighter stars, but most of them were shrouded. Sighing slightly, she flexed her wings experimentarily. They were still pretty stiff. She decided that the cool dampness of the cloud would help her relax her wings more quickly. So she carefully rolled over and stretched out her wings, gently beating them to knock out any high spots of cloud snuff. As she did, a memory came back of flight camp, where she and half a dozen other fillies had gotten into a cloud fight when the instructors were away. Fluttershy had hidden under a table early on, while Rainbow Dash had aggressively pursued everyone and pummeled them mercilessly with cloud balls. Flitter and Cloud Chaser, who acted above the action, nevertheless, cheered on Thunderlane as he and Rainbow made their final confrontation across a dining room hall table, which no pony had noticed was slowly sinking, its support gone. They were facing each other down like two stallions fighting for dominance, when one of the camp counselors had come in, seen the destruction, and made them spend the rest of the night smoothing the cloud back down before they could have supper. She sighed. Those were simpler times. Fully relaxed, she stretched her neck over to the edge of the cloud and looked at the world below. It looked funny for it to be above and the sky to be below. She decided she could see the lights of Canterlot off in the distance, and if she bent her neck a little farther, she could see Ponyville. There were lights on in most of the houses and a few street lights that Mayor had installed around the marketplace and park, where most ponies stayed inside at night. She could see the Apples farm, and the faint light of the moon made the rows of apple trees look soft and inviting. She wondered if it was really as comfortable to sleep on branches as Dash made it look. She had tried once and promptly fallen out of the tree just as she was drifting off to sleep, and had never repeated the experiment. It was tricky to get past the branches and leaves too. It was peaceful in her cloud. She wondered what it would be like to just keep lying on it, drifting wherever the wind took her. She could put a little sign on her cloud that said, "Do not disturb," and just let it drift. She could probably tour all over Equestria. She knew that there were some wandering Pegasi who did that with their cloud homes, although they would often push them to whatever destination they had in mind, rather than rely on something as fickle as wind. But she thought it seemed simpler to just be one with the cloud. "I suppose I would have to pack my saddlebags full of food," she muttered aloud. "What would I tell my friends and family? I'm drifting with the wind? I don't know when I will return?" She giggled at the thought, and imagined herself as a brave old-timer adventurer, going off to explore who knew what. She wondered if the princesses had just lain on clouds and drifted over Equestria. She decided that they probably had. She flexed her wings again and decided that the soreness had finally worked out of them. Tightening them against her side, she rolled back onto her stomach, then got her feet under herself and stood up. She tugged the strap on her saddlebags, just to make sure they were still snug, then faced over the edge of the cloud, looking at the patchwork of fields and forest below her. She could follow an unnaturally straight line, that she knew was a rail train to Appaloosa, as well as the meandering routes of the streams that cut through the landscape. She knew better than many other Pegasi the names of all the streams, rivers, and roads that made up Equestria, knew the farms and villages and freeholds, as well as the great brick and stone buildings of Canterlot and Philadelphia and Manhattan. She had visited the garish-coloured Las Pegasus and toured the Clydesdale weather factory. When she was young and had no responsibilities, she had flown one weekend far enough east to see the great ocean and had wondered what lay on the other side. She smiled at the memories, and unnoticed, a tear trailed down her cheek. She'd stood tall and flared her wings. She needed to get back home. Dinky and Sparkle would be missing her, and she them. You're as young as you want to be, she thought to herself. She stepped to the edge of the Clyde. About to step off, she paused, and then giggled for a moment. Holding her head proudly aloft, she announced to the heavens, "For the glory of Equestria, I will fly to Ponyville!" And then she jumped.
We here at Pony&Wolf Productions thank these amazing patrons of ours for their monthly support, without which all of this would not be possible. We sincerely appreciate it, and every dollar helps, is needed, and will be used to keep us going to produce audiobooks for your continued enjoyment. It is, now more than ever, important that you support your favorite creators if possible, due to YouTube changing in a way that is not very friendly to content creators. Especially small content creators, like us. In recent months, the names you see on screen have enabled Midnight and Visual Pony to keep going and only having to sell off part of their belongings to not end up on the street. As an incentive for everyone, Visual Pony has broken a vow and has promised to read and record Fallout Equestria, Murky number 7, should the monthly support reach $1,500. To be clear, this is the absolute minimum amount needed to keep the apartment and all bills paid without starving, while a production of this size is ongoing. The estimated time for this production would be 3 to 4 years, but people already said that Project Horizons was impossible to do, right? And now look who did it, so with Pony&Wolf, you know we can finish the job. For further information on how to support us, please have a look at the description of this video, as there are also other ways, like our merch store. Sincerely and forever yours, your Pony&Wolf team.